Places, please. Lights. Camera.
Hey everybody, this is Offstage Welcome. I am your host, Renée Yaworsky, and we're doing a part 2 of our interview with diagnosed narcissist Jacob Skidmore, aka the Nameless Narcissist. In the description, it says how you can follow him on all of his platforms. Just type in Nameless Narcissist. He's very popular. And last week when I brought him on, I said, we'll aim for a half an hour. Maybe we'll go a little bit over. And it was over an hour. And even all week after that, I was getting people texting me, DMing me stuff they didn't want to put publicly and just saying, oh my gosh, can you ask him this? Can you ask him this? Everybody, it seems like in the entire world, is just giddy with excitement to get into the mind of Jacob. And a lot of them bring their own baggage to the table. But I was really happy to see that overall the comments last week were very, very positive. And so I do want to encourage everyone again to please keep those comments very positive. What Jacob is doing is incredibly difficult. It is a lot of pressure on him. And I can ask him about that. But to me, it seems like he has to come from such a place of vulnerability to be this open book so that we can all learn. And so that victims of narcissistic abuse or all abuse can actually be helped in their healing journey. So yes, Judy said he's a very likable guy. Yes, he's very charismatic, very likable. We love Jacob. So you don't want to look at me anymore. You want to look at Jacob. So let's bring him up. Hello.
How's it going?
It's great. I'm so grateful that you're back here today. And so many people are inspired. Yeah, people are just inspired by your journey. And I think doing these sort of dialogues and these conversations, it's something that you don't see a lot of. You're used to it because you really are, you're one of the pioneers, I think, of this movement of opening up the dialogue with narcissists and even abuse victims, which is so healing. And I'm so excited to even be a small part in that, because it's only when people have that information that they can get answers, and answers can be very cathartic to a lot of people wherever they are on their journey.
I always like my biggest goal with my channel is to not only help. I want to be a place of understanding where like narcissists or other people with cluster B can feel understood and help other people understand as well. Because I feel like that's so important to like all of our healing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And one thing I was really disappointed by, not by you, but the fact that so many people they'll talk about how we have to support people on their mental health journeys.
Yes.
But then when you're talking about narcissistic personality disorder, it's like that's exempt from that compassion for some reason. Mm-hmm. And I'm not really sure why that is, but do you have any ideas why would it's a mental health journey? It's something that is actually a disorder. It's something that you suffer with and many other people. Can you fathom a reason why people would say this is the one dialogue we don't want to have?
I would say there's like a handful of things that do contribute to this. I would say one of the biggest ones is, how narcissism is portrayed in media nowadays. A lot of people make a lot of money being able to be like, oh, well, that person's a narcissist. And then, a bunch of like clicks and stuff like that. Yay, whatever. And also, I feel like a big part of it is like, let's take a mental illness, say OCD, right? You can see very visual, or like schizophrenia, whatever. You can see very visually how that's impacting them, how that is like a mental illness, how that's something that they can't help. For me, my symptoms just kind of make me look like an asshole half the time, or dramatic, right? We're literally called the dramatic, erratic, and emotional cluster. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I can kind of understand why some people are less willing to look at this as a mental health problem just because of how atypical it is. But like we literally think differently and we have like stronger emotional reactions towards things, right? Like something I wish I could like describe to people more is like, for example, with feelings of emptiness. That's something I don't think I'm ever going to be fully able to describe to somebody who doesn't have this pathology, because I like feel hollow. It's like I physically I feel hollow sometimes. And that's part of the disorder in itself. It's not me making choices. It's me having all these experiences and emotions in my body and me desperately trying to fight against these things with my actions. And sometimes that ends up hurting people. And I think that's the third one, is that people getting hurt by us. I'm never going to shy away from the fact that, like, narcissists, borderlines, anybody with a personality disorder, we do cause harm in our, like, personal lives and our work lives and stuff like that. Not out of malice, of course, but because nobody has taught us how to handle, one, our deep trauma, and two, the mental illness that has occurred because of the deep trauma.
Right. So it's not volitional. That's the difference between someone who's just trying to be an arrogant asshole and they're trying to create chaos and they're just really self-absorbed in a mean, nasty way that they've chosen. This is a disorder that is imposed upon you that you're actually trying to fight your way out of. You're going to therapy. You're doing all kinds of things. You're leveraging social media to get your message out there and to help other narcissists and also to help other victims of narcissistic abuse. I mean, I guess my question for anyone who did not want to hear from any narcissist would be, well, then what should a narcissist do? It's not anything that person has chosen. So are we just saying we're never going to talk to them again? Are they going to lose constitutional rights? I mean, literally, I mean, just to be honest, like
the most second-class citizens. Yeah.
Well, are they supposed to be like put off on an island? And
oh, I've actually, I'm not going to say who, but a very, very popular clinician who makes videos on narcissistic personality disorder actually said that, which I thought was,
oh my gosh.
I mean, and that's the thing, is that, like, people want to be like, oh no, there shouldn't be any respite for narcissists. Like, why are we trying to help them and get them into therapy? It's like, okay, let's say let's say that you're just kind of person that you don't care if narcissists are happy or not. You don't care if they get better. At the very least, getting us into therapy is going to make us hurt less people. So I think everybody does benefit from destigmatizing this disorder, saying, listen, like, yes, we hurt a lot of people, but this evil mustache twirling villain kind of image of narcissists that we have in our mind isn't true. And these are people that are suffering deeply and need help.
Right. And I do think that one of the issues is that a lot of people are colloquially talking about narcissism in a way that's not a clinical definition. They're really just talking about assholes. Yes. They're just saying, oh, this guy's a total narcissist or whatever. And it's like, you don't know that person's diagnosis. That person might have just been out to get you for whatever reason. Maybe they wanted to bilk you out of money, or they were just a total ass. We're not, that's why I think it's really dangerous when some people just, they throw words around that they don't really know the meaning. And what you're doing is you're coming forward and you're introducing people to information, you're connecting them to truths, and then they can do whatever they want with that. Yes. But if anything, I think that a lot of people will say, okay, Jacob is here talking about what to expect from a narcissistic relationship or any relationship with a narcissist. And then that gives consent to somebody choosing to be a part of that or not, which is helpful for everybody, like you're saying. So I love that. Judy asks, Jacob, do you think your object permanence has changed since you've been self-aware, and how far do you think you can go with bringing it back to normal?
I feel so. For those of you that don't know, object permanence is a term used in psychology, basically refer to me being able to have, like, let's have a friend, right? And generally, I can take every single experience I've had with that friend and have a full cohesive picture of what kind of person that guy is and my emotions and feelings towards him and how they feel about me, et cetera, et cetera. But people with cluster B personality disorders, which include people with narcissistic personality disorder, it's a little different for us. We can only see people in the moment. So whatever, basically, you're like, let's say if you make me mad in the moment, the only thing I can think about in regards to you is what you just did in the moment. I can't draw back on those prior experiences and stuff to mediate me and say, well, I don't hate this person. I don't hate this person. Like, they just messed up this one time. No, in the moment, I do hate. And it's very hard for me to get around that. For me, the object permanence itself hasn't changed. I'll still have those reactions, but I can tell myself, like, way I know that, and this is often also relates to splitting, it being only able to think in black and white. Going back, but like, I can basically in the moment be like, okay, I despise this person right now. I want to kill them and I hate them, but I know that this is just my disorder cutting off every other aspect about them and only focusing on this one thing. So I'll step back and calm down first and talk to them, and then talk to them rationally when I get a chance. So it doesn't really get fixed, but there's workarounds.
And is that also true on the flip side of idealization, where when
Yes.
yeah, so both ways you're just stuck in that's the object permanence. I hadn't heard of that before. That's really interesting.
I mean, because that's why, because I have you heard of like love bombing, which a term that's
Yes.
used for it. I mean, that's why we love bomb, is because in the moment, all we can see is this perfect ideal love, not viewing you as a real person, just what you are right now. All you is Jesus. All you are is is like my soulmate finally, and that's why we go out of our way to like try to I guess seduce people with like these acts of like great kindness and proclamations of love, is because we're like, we genuinely think that person is the best thing ever in that moment.
Right. And you know that I was going to ask you about love bombing, because that's something very popular right now on social media, saying if someone's love bombing you, they're trying to they're a con artist and all this, they're trying to get something out of you. They're manipulating. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about that, because the way you're talking about it, it's not a nefarious plan. It literally is you being honest in that moment. You do think that person is worthy of the praise, correct?
100%. When I think that is the best person in the world. When I will get it, like, and this kind of happens with friendships to a lesser degree too. It's like I meet a new person and I think they're like, whoa, this is the best person and coolest person ever, and just like completely fixated on them for a little bit. And don't get me wrong, I guess you could say it's kind of manipulative, because like I am trying to get them to like me more, right?
Yeah.
But it's not because I'm trying to take advantage of them. It's just because I want them to like me more because I really like them and I want to be with them and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, and then it's super hard. And it's interesting. Like, black and white thinking is super interesting, because when somebody is idealized like that, or like painted white, or whatever you want to say, it's like, let's say that they went out of their way and hurt somebody on purpose, right? Like rationally, I know that they did that, and that was a bad thing. But emotionally, it has no bearing. Like it feels like, on the flip side, let's say that you had let's say that there was some dude who murdered your dog, and then one day he comes to you and he pays for your dinner or something like that. You're not really going to care they paid it for your dinner, right? Because he killed your dog. That's basically, so when somebody is idealized for me, that is what applies to everything that doesn't fit into the narrative of them I have in my head.
Okay. All right. And then do you get to a point though where that phase ends and then they don't rise to your expectation, and then you sort of almost blame them for it or try to get rid of them? Is that what leads to the discard phase?
Yes. It's, well, because we have these huge expectations of our ideal love, right? That nobody can possibly live up to. And so eventually, like, this whole role that we have in your head starts not working, because it's like breaking down as we see that you're like a real person. And we're like, and like, for me, I get like anxious. I'm like, what if this isn't my soulmate? What if this isn't like the best person ever? What if like somebody better for me is out there? It's like very distressing, honestly. And eventually that like turns into like a resentment towards them. It's like, this person is keeping me back. This person is like, has me trapped in this relationship. And like subconsciously, I'll just start to pick apart everything that they do. It gets to a point like towards the end that it's like everything they do just, I'm trying to, like, everything they do just annoys me, and everything. And like every time they speak, all I can think is like, shut up, shut up, shut up, because of how that narrative has changed now that, you know, I realize that they're a real person.
Wow. And about how long is the duration between start and finish usually?
So I would say there's actually a study that says it's around 4 months, and that has 4 to 5 months. It has tracked my experiences too.
Wow. Okay.
Sometimes a little bit shorter, but generally 4 months, I would say.
Okay. Wow. So somebody's asking this question, but this was one of the questions I had for you anyways, was about attachment styles and fear of intimacy. Do narcissists feel, or do you feel a fear of intimacy? And do sometimes you leave a relationship because you're afraid that you're getting attached?
So yes and no. So narcissists have a disorganized attachment style, which means that we basically flip back and forth between being super distant and super preoccupied, but we do lean more towards the avoidance attachment style. We have like overtones of avoidant attachment despite having characteristics of both. For me, like, it's all like when I was younger and like I wasn't as caught up in my fantasies of ideal love, how I would avoid intimacy is that I just wouldn't connect with them at all. I wouldn't try to connect with them. It's just like, oh, this is a hot girl I have around that's like on my shoulder or whatever. Like, I like her. This is just how love is. I'm going through the motions, right? but thereby I'm avoiding allowing myself to be vulnerable because I am not, connecting emotionally like that. And also I'm protecting myself from abandonment because if I don't get close to them, they can't leave me. Right. And often these reactions to intimacy like are subconscious. It depends. Like for me, whenever I'm like, even nowadays, if I let's say I get drunk and I say something vulnerable to somebody, because I'm not going to say anything vulnerable while I'm sober. I'm going to be, the next day I will hide from them. I will avoid them at all costs because I think that they're judging me. I'm humiliated with myself. I'm so embarrassed. I'm like, God. So I will literally avoid them for days at a time.
Oh, wow. So sometimes that leads me into what I wanted to talk about with silent treatment and different other punishments. So sometimes narcissists, if they're unhappy or something with a partner, they will do this silent treatment, which is not a discard yet, but they're going no contact for a while. Have you done that, or do you know what's behind that? Is it related to what you're talking about sometimes? Or
I feel like what I was talking about could be very easily misconstrued as a silent treatment for obvious reasons. But I do think that there's a difference between that and then me.
Okay.
Because I have instrumentally used the silent treatment before. Okay. Generally what I'm trying to do in that is I feel slighted, and so there is a vindictiveness there, but more and kind of a revenge thing. It's well, now you know how I feel, whatever, especially if they were ignoring me to begin with. But the big thing I want is for them to panic, which sounds really bad when I say it like that. I mean, it is bad either way, but still, I want them to panic. I want them to be oh my God, I love you so much, don't leave, blah, blah. I want them to start chasing after me. That's when I start, that's kind of this cycle that happens if I feel my relationship is threatened. If I feel something is going wrong or they're pulling back, I'll pull back too, in hopes that they'll kind of jump that gap.
To prove their love for you. You're wanting them to prove their passion for you and to fight for you.
Show me you love me by freaking the fuck out that you might lose me.
Right. Okay. So now, because the number one question that I think that you probably get when I look at your social media, but is about the discard phase. A lot of people have been really hurt because they're in love with a narcissist and they're not understanding what's going on. And so I'm trying to think from that point of view, and I'm saying, okay, so talk me through the difference between a discard and then what you're talking about. Is it possible that some things we think of as a discard are actually just please fight for my love? I'm going to sort of break up with you, or even actually break up with you, but please chase me, beg me to come back.
Honestly, that was that was a really smart observation on your part, because that's I think there's two. I will separate the two types of discards, I guess, that I can identify.
Okay.
There is the one that you were what I was just describing right there. Yeah, there's been times I have sent lengthy, angry texts to people telling them how much of a bag of shit they are and that I'm blocking them and I hate them. And I'm not doing that just to hurt them. I'm doing that in hopes that they'll fight me. I'm hoping that everyone will be no, wait, don't leave. I did everything's my fault, blah, blah. Let's be close again. Let's be friends. Let's be partners, whatever. Yeah. I'm hoping for them to basically, since I can't be vulnerable and express that hey, I really care about you and I feel insecure, I'm trying to provoke you into showing that. I'm provoke and manipulate into showing that care. And then there is the other kind of discard where okay, so for me, if you get an angry text like that and that's a breakup or something like that, then that's, I would say 99% of the time, that is the reason I just described as the reason.
Okay.
If I get you to break up with me, that's a genuine discard every single time.
Interesting. Okay, this is everybody. Listen to what he's saying, because you're answering the number one question that people have. All right, say it again and take us through it just a little slower, because this, I think you're explaining one of the biggest reasons why people get hurt by narcissist partners.
Yeah. Okay. So if I send that angry text blowout, I'm praying, I'm hoping, and I might not even admit. And here's the thing: I might not even admit this to myself, but deep down, I know that I am. Mm-hmm. I want a reaction of you to describe your love for me and basically chase me back, right? I want you to fight for it.
Okay.
Now, if I get you to break up with me, on the other hand, that means I am at the ending point of that devalue. I am convinced that you are not my soulmate. I might already have I might have somebody else I've already idealized and think, well, no, that's my soulmate. But for some reason, and I'm still trying to explore this, I struggle to break up with people. I'll know in my head that it's like I need this relationship to end, but I can't look somebody in the eye and break up with them. I don't know why. And like, so I will like do things to try to get them to break up with me, either if that's just being a shitty boyfriend or like last time what I did was I'm not gonna say what I said because it was really messed up. Mm-hmm. And and the next morning they called me out. They're like, hey, what you said was like, that like really wasn't cool. I'm not okay with that. And I'm like, yeah, sorry, blah, blah, blah. And like, she kept expanding on it. And so I was like, okay, I know how this is going to go. So I led her to the conclusion that we're going to break up. Because I was like, are you breaking up with me? And she's like, no, I don't think so. And I was like, well, it sounds like you're breaking up with me. And basically almost forced her into a position where she broke up with me like that.
Right. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I'm not proud of that, by the way. That was more recent than I want to admit. And I immediately regretted it. But yeah, but that was to the point where I was at. And I was convinced that wasn't my soulmate. And that's the times that you're not going to see me like try to go back or anything.
Okay, so the vitriol. Okay, right. So the vitriolic, get away from me, I hate you, like that. If it comes out of nowhere and it's sudden and it's like really, really impassioned rage, that's usually I love you, don't leave me, please fight for me.
Yes. Oh yeah. I would say 99% of the time.
And then when the person who's not a narcissist thinks you just changed up on them and just hate them for no apparent reason and wants to do right by you and says, oh, if you hate me.
It reaffirms that nobody can ever care about me, ironically.
Right. So then it reaffirms that, and then they go their merry way, and then their takeaway is that, oh, Jacob just randomly started hating me. I guess I did something wrong. But really what they were supposed to do is say, no, Mike, oh my gosh, please don't leave me. Please stay with me. Mm-hmm. And how many
That's
times
what I was expecting. And it's funny because like me, like I forget to kind of, I forget sometimes that like, I forget to explain things sometimes because like, I wish I would have talked about this more in the past, but like, for me, that's so obvious to me. I think that when I do something like that, it's obvious to the other person that like what I actually want is for them to be like, oh my God, I love you so much. So like, it's funny because I was like, oh wait, you guys can't tell. Got it. Okay.
Right. And then then it reaffirms that this person was not really that loyal to you anyways, because if they can leave after just one blow up, then they're not really interested in you is what I'm assuming you're saying.
I always describe love at like true unconditional love is two people can hurt each other a billion times, but each time they still come back to each other. Right. The ultimate proof of not loving somebody is leaving them.
Right. So there's another nuance here when you're talking about being afraid of being abandoned, but then there's a discard thing. So I think a lot of people are wondering how that paradox can fly. It's like, can you talk about that a little bit?
You can't leave me if I leave you.
So usually it is based. So what I'm learning.
Like, yeah, because like I'm afraid of you leaving me. And if I leave you first, at least then I still win, right? But what I really want is for you to come back. Like, don't get me wrong, like part of my mindset is like, well, okay, they think that they're better than me. If I leave, that proves I'm better. But like at the same time, what I really desire is for that, because I'm only doing that because I'm afraid I'm going to get left, or that you don't like me anymore, or that you hate me, or whatever. But like, yeah, what I really want is for you to be like, no, don't go, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly. Yeah. That actually makes sense to me. And it also makes sense to me that you would do that and the person wouldn't get it. I can see it from both angles of why they get so confused. How long would it be just an outburst, an angry outburst that you would do in that moment? Or would it be something that would be really detailed? Like, well, you did this and I don't want you anymore. Like, how realistic do you make it seem to try? What's the difficulty level that you put on this for them?
I never actually thought about this, but yeah, I cut deep when I do that. Okay. Yeah, I'm like trying, because when I do that, like I am trying to hit at almost every insecurity I can see in that moment.
And so anything that annoys them, any weakness they have, and then also you're going to put a barrier up that they almost can't get over, like saying, these are the barriers between us being together. This is why I don't want to be with you. Is it that?
It's usually not even that. It's usually just like these accusations. It's usually like insults on certain parts of their character, and then like and like just me, like usually it's like, oh, you don't give a fuck about me, you've never cared about me, like yada yada yada. It's never like it's detailed, but like I never give like very concrete reasons of like why we can't be together and stuff like that.
Okay.
I'm just kind of being an asshole.
You're just being an asshole. And does it come out of nowhere? What's the impetus? Does it come out of a fight that's pre-existing, or is it just when you're, what's the catalyst there?
So I'm trying to think of my last, because like I haven't had a rage out like that in about a year, which go me.
And congratulations! Like, no, really, that's a big deal for anybody, narcissist or not. That's awesome. Yeah. I wish I could say that.
Right. And this was towards a friend, and like I had convinced myself basically that. So this friend I would hang out with like I don't know, like every other week, give or take. But then there's a period of time where it felt like they kept making excuses. And I convinced myself that they didn't actually care about me, that they were intentionally avoiding me, that they were lying to me, that they never actually cared about me to begin with. And I was angry at myself because I had been vulnerable with this person. This was after I was self-aware too. Like I had been vulnerable with this person, and I was like, how dare they take that and then just stab me in the back? You know what I mean?
Right.
And so like I sent that long message. So it's usually like, it was basically, I felt like I was being abandoned.
Right. Okay. Somebody, Judy wanted to know if there's a reoccurring character trait that you find is repeated with each new person you end up idolizing, or if they're always different.
So, and I think that's something I don't talk about enough either, is the fact that there's two types of me pursuing people, or like the two types of relationships I get in. The status-driven ones that are like, oh, this person's going to make me look good. Maybe like, I don't know, once I want to get back with an ex because I want to get into like her social circle and stuff like that. Like there's some like more, I think they're like, I have to like them to some degree, of course,
right?
But it's not the ideal love sort of one. Because like I always say, like I have to like you at least a little bit to try to date you, because otherwise I would just go to a bar and make them laugh. That could be my self-esteem juice for the day.
Exactly. Yeah.
But so there's those people, and then there is the like soulmate ones. Soulmate ones, there is, because those other ones, like they like, it's like I think they're cool is basically the extent of it. I don't get very close to them emotionally, and usually that's unconscious. But then there's like the soulmate ones. Those ones, so consistently, it's always like these like people that I view as like innocent or virtuous, and I think I have to protect them. These people are these great things that like I could never be. And like I have like this admiration for how good, in quotes, that I see them. And I think that's the most consistent one that I find when I go into that.
Yeah. And what you said last week was, you said that the only problem with that is sometimes they can fall into being a sycophant and idolizing you too much, and that you get bored with that because you don't like someone who's just being a yes man to you. Yeah.
But like I end up resenting them for being like so. I was attracted to them because of like how good they were, but then they're not fighting back. They're not being my equal.
Right.
So it's like, I end up resenting them for the things that I was originally attracted to them for.
Okay. Well, let's do something interesting. Let's talk to your soulmate, wherever she is.
Okay.
And let's tell her, let's give her the pamphlet. Like you go to the pet store, you get a hamster, they give you a pamphlet. Let's give her the Jacob pamphlet, okay? And this will be helpful because other people who are in love with a narcissist or have a soulmate who's a narcissist, they can try this template. Tell her, okay, you're innocent, you're kind, you're forgiving, you're compassionate, you're virtuous, and that's why I love you, but I want you to do this to make sure I don't get bored of you or you don't become a sycophant. So help her through that if she's watching. No pressure.
Here's the thing: is that like I don't consider myself a recovered narcissist. I'm a narcissist in recovery. If I knew exactly how to phrase this, I'd be telling everybody. But I would say is that like, if I had to describe it, I don't want to be a unit, if that makes sense. I want to be two individuals in a relationship. I want us to both have our own lives outside this relationship, and I want you to be able to establish boundaries with me and stick up for yourself. I don't want somebody that I can just walk over, because that means that you're not my equal. But I also don't just want to be like one with you, because I hate, like, I just find it pathetic whenever I see people, like if I have a friend who I only ever see them when like they're around their partner and stuff like that. I find that pathetic. Like, is the only really word I can think of.
Right. Well, that's not healthy. That's codependence, right? And that's not healthy. And I think I want to say that it's not just a narcissistic thing. That's actually not healthy if somebody's always, and that can even lead to abuse. People who don't let their partner leave the house, or they don't have friends or interests outside of that relationship. That can be really damaging. So just want to say that.
And I will be terrified, and I am terrified of losing myself in a relationship like that. I want my own agency. I want my independence. Like, that's intolerable. So those are the only real things I can really say, like, because those are the things that are going to spark shit, honestly.
Exactly. Now, if this person, so we're talking your soulmate again, now at some point in your relationship with her, you're going to do the, you're going to get mad and say that she should leave you, and you're going to do that, the fake discard, right?
Yeah.
In your mind, though, what she should do, here's the script for her. The script for her is that in that moment, she's supposed to do what? She's supposed to say, Jacob, you're doing that thing again. I don't appreciate what you're doing to me. That's a violation of my boundaries, but I love you and I'm going to ride it through with you. But I want you to know that, is that like a good balance?
See, here's my issue with it, is that, like, on one hand, I think that depending on how visceral the narcissist is being in that moment, that can be, and how invested they are in the relationship, et cetera, that can be a way to go about it. But I think it's such a slippery slope to be like, oh, well, like, to play along with the games, right? I always tell people just to kind of take us at face value, because it's not your responsibility to decipher through like what is real and what isn't real for us. So personally, like, if you're really invested in this person and you're really trying like that, you can do that. I probably wouldn't recommend it. I would say if they're going to do that, then they're obviously not at a place that they're healed enough to be able to have a healthy relationship.
Wow. So wait a minute. So you're going against the narcissist here, and you're telling the person, if that narcissist is still doing those fake discards, that the person should walk away, or at least,
I think, or at least let them, like, I would say, like, if they say that they never want to talk to you again, okay, then you'll respect their boundaries then. If they then text you and like apologize, I'd be like, okay, that shows some growth. Like, I think that's fair to go back. But I personally think if you get a fake discard, treat it like a real one until they prove otherwise.
Wow, I did not think you were going to go in that direction. That is interesting. So that is that the therapy at work, or is that your own inner work that's bringing you there? Because you're almost a narcissist hybrid now. You're
a narcissist hybrid. I love it.
You're leaving your tribe. I'm concerned for you. I'm concerned. No,
I'm concerned for myself. I don't want to. I'm like terrified of getting healthy. I'm like, what am I? I'm not a narcissist anymore.
Your whole brand, Jacob. Your whole brand.
Exactly. Oh my God, no, and I hate to go against my fellow NPDs like that, right?
Yeah.
But, like, at the same time, it's like, I'm not just advocating for narcissists. I'm not just advocating for narcissists to, like, just for them in general. I'm advocating for their healing. We're not going to fucking heal if, like, we're coddled with our games and stuff like that. Okay. So, and I'm like, and also it's going to lead to more people getting hurt. So I'm like, it's like, just be like, you really think that, okay, you want to leave? Okay, cool. Bye. like that's your choice. I'm respecting your boundaries. I'm not going to try to force myself on you if you don't want me.
Wow. Okay.
And that will probably, and honestly, like, here's the thing. Let's say I send an angry text like that, and if I send an angry text like that and you don't reply, well, like, then I would be like, I am gone then. Like, there's no way. But if you do try to not call me out on it, but just say something along the lines of like, well, if you really feel that way, that's a shame. I'll miss you, but, like, I respect your boundaries and goodbye. I guarantee that would end with the narcissist, maybe not apologizing, but backtracking.
Wow. Okay. There's some good information here. Okay. That's really, really, really good.
But you have to keep being engaged, because the thing is, like, what happens with me usually is I'll send a text like that. They'll try to reply to me. I'll be like, fuck you. Well, they won't reply to me. And that's when I convince myself that was real, if that makes sense. Or that's when I try to tell myself that it was. But if you stay engaged and you're just kind of like, okay, I'll respect your boundaries, like, we don't have to talk anymore, you'll get another response. You will get another response, and you will keep getting responses. If you keep that boundary hard, you will still keep getting responses until he backtracks. Guaranteed.
Wow. This is awesome. All right, thank you. Okay, what about shame? So I think a lot of people are surprised when you talk about shame because narcissists are supposed to be in the pop culture, they love themselves, they're egotistical, they're arrogant. How do you feel shame? How do you experience shame? Is it the same thing as regret? What is shame for you?
Shame is visceral. So like the core of narcissism is shame, right? That's why we're pretending all the time. We're basically trying to hide what we feel is like defective and wrong. And people confuse grandiosity, and I may have talked about this last time, for self-love. No, I think I'm better than people 100%. I do not love myself. I actively hate myself even. So I'm like, basically, and like shame is so bad for me, like especially nowadays that I can identify my emotions better. It's like literally like I'm being stabbed in the chest. It's intolerable, and it makes me angry. And like sometimes I'll remember something like that, and like I'll literally like hit myself because I just need to I need to stop. Like the shame is so bad that I'm just trying to snap myself out of it, and I'd rather like hit myself than actually experience that shame because it's intolerable. And everything can cause shame. Anything anything that's even slightly proves that I'm flawed in any way. I'll probably be feeling shame over the fact that earlier in this thing I said is instead of are, and that was really embarrassing for me in that moment. I'll probably feel shame about that later tonight.
Okay. Oh, interesting. How can we ameliorate that in the moment? What literally is there anything we could do right now with the audience who's going to see that? Is there a way to sort of help you through that, or you just have to go through that tonight no matter what we say right now?
So it depends how healthy of a narcissist that people are, right? It's like I have to, so like the healthy, because like the reason that narcissists are doing all this manipulative shit is basically because we can't ask for reassurance. Is like that's kind of my personal thing because that's being vulnerable.
Right.
If you are a healed narcissist, you should be able, well, not should be able to, but at some point you become comfortable asking for reassurance, right? And you actually see this a lot in narcissism where it's like the big bad businessman who like everybody respects or fears. And then he goes home to his wife and he's constantly asking, like, do you think I'm doing a good job? I feel like a failure. Yeah. I feel like a fraud. You see that a lot. And you need to find ways that you can communicate with your partner or the people in your life and basically get your self-esteem juice by being like, hey, I feel like shit. Like, do you think I'm doing okay? And like, wait. And the thing is, another reason I hate asking is because then it's like, it feels like they have to say it if I ask. Like, it's like they're not going to like be truthful with me because like, oh, they think that they care about me. And so they therefore are going to have to say things that would make me happy. So you have to discuss strategies of them be able to convey it in a way that like actually that would make you believe it, right? Like, for example, I asked asking for, I bet like a lot of narcissists do this, like asking for examples. It's like, do you think I did a good job? And they're like, oh yeah, I did great. Okay, why?
Right,
and right. Stand up on it so that we know it's the truth.
Right. So to like be detailed about that. And then also for healing, like when we talk about how earlier you said that is thing, I'm trying to figure out a way that we could mitigate that negative effect on you. Is there a way that you can use an inside joke? Can you start making a joke out of it? Does that help you?
I mean, like nowadays, is what I try to do, like making a joke of like the shit. Because, you know, if I laugh at it, then people can't laugh at me.
Right. Yeah, sure.
But it's still like, no matter how many jokes I make about it, like it's still just going to haunt me.
It's going to hurt you. Yeah.
It haunts me. Like there's days that it's just, I cannot remember the last day that I have gone more than like an hour without like remembering something embarrassing and shameful and not being able to like, without remember something like that and just like sitting there just like with my like this like trying to like get it out of my head. It's awful.
What can somebody do if you have a partner, if you have this again this perfect partner, what would she be able to do with you in that moment to help you through that?
Fuck, it's so hard to say. Distraction. If you like, I feel like there's two things: either let me write it out or just try to distract.
Okay.
And hopefully, but like that can go so many ways because that's when we're going to get emotionally volatile, right? So I could react in like a whole bunch of ways to any one circumstance because I can think of times that like I've gotten annoyed at people for trying to distract me when I'm in a state. Well, I guess not with shame. With shame, it's usually pretty consistent. but you know, pretty consistent. Like I want to be distracted and stuff like that.
Right.
But it's like, don't, oh, here's the thing. Don't fucking ask us to talk about it unless we say that we want to.
Okay. So I just learned that. So now that's my shame, because someone just said, how do you, that I should outdo you with my embarrassing moment. That might make you feel better. And that's embarrassing for me, because I thought that, like, from my point of view, when I talk about things, it's almost the opposite. So for me, I would be able to heal that and make it, that was actually something that ended up being traumatic almost for you to go back in there. What I should have done is distract you by moving on and not calling, right? Is that correct?
That's where honestly.
I apologize. I didn't know that. Thank you.
It's fine. I don't really like, I'm at a heal enough place that I'm not like going to get all upset about something like that. But yeah, because like, there's other situations with narcissists where it's like, depending on the emotion, what's going on, we will want to talk about it. Shame is not one of those. We want our minds off of it as soon as possible. Okay. Like that was actually a problem that my ex would do, is I'd be like, give me a second. I'm like having a moment. And she'd be like, oh, what's wrong? What's wrong? It's like, I don't want to talk about it. She's like, are you sure? What's wrong? I'm like, shut up.
Right.
Wallow.
This is, Jacob, this is probably the most, like effective thing that we've talked about so far. And I'm so sorry that you had to go through that, but I just want to let you know that this is like going to solve a lot of people's problems when having relationships with narcissists, because people are doing what your ex was doing, thinking that, like, for me, I felt like I was making it better. So I'm going to move on now out of respect for you. Because
one another thing. Oh, this one's interesting. That like something that, because I'm always reminded of this whenever it's like, because I have to remind myself, okay, people are reacting to me the way that they would want to be reacted to, right?
Yes, projection.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we're because we're all projecting, narcissists and non-narcissists. The only difference is that most people aren't narcissists. But
yes,
there was one. What was it? There's this one thing that people do that whenever I'm describing like an issue in my life and stuff like that, or something I'm upset about, people have this inclination that they want to say, oh, I completely relate to that. Or it's like, oh, that's not that unusual. Oh, that's kind of normal. Like everyone goes through that. I might murder you if you say that to me. You remember, we're narcissists. Our problems are the worst that have ever happened. So we don't want to be told. We don't want to be told that anyone relates. We don't want, well, I mean, I like relating to other narcissists, but that's a whole different thing because of the internal experience. But like, we don't want to be told that you relate. We don't want to be told that's normal or that like, and stuff like that. We just want to be, we basically just want to be heard when we're saying stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's a big one that I feel like people do a lot that I thought was worth mentioning.
That is a really big deal, and I'm seeing other narcs in the audience and in my DMs confirming and really laying into me about that privately. And I see you guys, and so that was my embarrassing moment. Absolutely,
that's hilarious. That's funny.
But I've learned. So the spotlight's on me, Jacob, with my mistake. Trust me. Okay. I wanted to ask about. So you're talking about narcissism a little bit differently than I've seen other people do. When you're
I'm aware.
Yeah, a little bit different. Okay. And I hope that's positive, and I'm trying to make it positive. So
I'm taking it as positive, trust me. Because there's a lot of them I don't want to be doing it like.
Yeah. So I'm really, really grateful about that. But I wanted to say one thing you say that's different is you talk about recovered narcissists. And a lot of people will say, well, there's no way they can recover. This is them forever. Talk about what you think, give some people some hope. And that was another thing. I had a lot of people say to me privately, Jacob stands for hope. And I think that's what you're doing. You're giving people who are in love with narcissists, people who are related to narcissists, you're giving us hope. So I really want you to talk about that hope with recovery being possible. I've learned a lot just by talking to you these 2 times about how I can relate to narcissists. You believe that recovery is possible, correct?
Yes, 100%. Okay. I don't have to just believe it. I know that it's true. I said, I know personally several narcissists who are in remission, and actually, according to research, around 52% of narcissists who are in treatment go into remission, which is like a decent. And we also have to keep in mind that I think narcissists make up a huge portion of outpatient treatment. They may not be being treated for narcissism because, well, one, a lot of people don't know what narcissism is, and two, that's not the issue that they think is an issue or whatever. But it's about 8 to 20% of outpatient treatment is made up of narcissists. Kind of like how borderlines make up like a huge portion of inpatient treatment. So I know personally, but also there's things that like healing is 100% possible. I think it's possible. Like to say that somebody can't heal is like, in my opinion, one of the most damaging things anybody can do. Because one, we want to encourage people who need healing to be able to heal. And also I feel like that's probably, I'm not exactly sure how people would think about this, but I think that would probably just be so despondent for like people who like love people like me, or like somebody else with cluster B personality disorder. My sister has borderline personality disorder, and like she is lost in that disorder. But I know people with borderline personality disorder can heal, and if one day she does, like I will be ecstatic. But that being said, I do want to point out, like, not to say in toxic relationships, it just out of hope of healing and stuff like that, unless they're showing like progress towards healing. And there's some forms of abuse that, of course, are never acceptable. And like, you gotta distance yourself for your own safety first. But healing is 100% possible, and I have seen it happen. And when I say healing, though, temper your expectations a little bit, because I'm always going to be a narcissist. But I can be a recovered narcissist, which means I'm getting all my needs met through healthy ways. I'm not hurting people around me. And generally, I am a happier person. And I've heard some good stories about people with me going remission saying that now they can love like a normal person, or at least they think they can. I've also heard people in remission who say that they still can't, but like, you know, they find other avenues to like cope that are healthy.
Right. Okay. Well, that was a very hopeful message. And that's probably, I wish I had ended on that, but unfortunately I do have a couple more things to ask you. And I'm so sorry. Jacob knows that about me. I always think that I can get this done. And I know it takes a lot out of you. And I know that you're, I don't know, just anything good that I could say, just insert it here. I mean, I don't have the proper words, but you putting yourself out here is so effective and so healing for so many people, many whom don't want to be public right now and will message you privately or me privately. And, you know, I said this last week, and it's just become ever more clear to me, you know, Jacob is putting himself in a position that most people would choose not to be. And one thing that really hurt me was I was on your social media today preparing for this interview, and I saw that you felt that people had been saying that you were faking this disorder, and you even felt like you had to post online the letter from your therapist. And my heart really hurt for you, because I thought that was so bold of you to respond like that, but I also felt so regretful that you were put in that position, because it's none of their business, number one. And number two, I just felt like, what was your response? I'll let you say what your response was to that.
Like, because people do challenge every now and then, like I do get challenges on my disorder. And this is usually because of like the misinformation out there. People look at me and they're like, this can't be a narcissist. This is nothing like what I imagine narcissism to be. And especially since I do have pretty good like insight, which is another myth. Like, it's not just narcissists who lack insight. I think, well, personally, I think most people do, but it's associated with personality disorders in general. But there can be people with personality disorders who have great insight, and I like to think I'm one of them. But
you do.
And it's frustrating because it feels like I'm giving all this information, and like being like, here's everything you could ever want to know about narcissism. I am giving it to you on a silver platter. And instead they want to say, well, you don't fit my preconceived notion of what narcissism is. Therefore, you are wrong always, and you suck. And I'm like, I hate you. It frustrates me so much, because it's bizarre to me. It's bizarre that people can be so close-minded about recognizing that narcissists are human, basically.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, just look at the internet. Look at how narcissists are talked about. Like, we're like Tolkien-esque like fantasy characters or something like that.
Right.
I read about myself in these articles, and I'm like, man, I feel like I'm reading about like a vampire or something like that, which kind of feels cool, but.
Yeah, it's cool. It's almost like a monster. They talk about it as if you don't have the same humanity. Yeah. And I don't believe that. And I certainly not after meeting you, but I just don't believe that's possible, and also that opens the door. And I do want to say this for people who want to say that narcissists are not fully human or are not deserving of our time or attention or anything like that. Are we going to open the door for yeah, are we going to open the door then to other personality disorders, and then other disorders, and other mental health, and then other physical health? Where do you stop it once you open that barn door?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, because I don't, because like I don't think there's a single disorder in DSM that isn't treatable. I will hands down say that. Treatment might be harder for a lot of them. It sure as hell is hard for me, but
Yeah.
I think that given enough work, anybody can change, anybody can heal.
Now, again, I really wish I had ended on that, because that was so beautiful. But I have to ask you about triangulation. I have to,
Ooh.
and inner child. Those are the last two. I promise they're not really the last two, because hundreds of things that people. And I apologize to everyone that I couldn't get to all your questions. But I do want to say, why do narcissists triangulate? Meaning pitting other people against one another. If you don't do that, you still have an insight. And then, what is a narcissist's inner child like? Those are my last two.
Okay. I'll try to speed run these. So triangulation is one of these things that like there's no way for me to like sugarcoat this one. And not that I try to usually, just this one is like kind of shitty. Usually, because there's two situations I really find myself that, well, at least I have in the past done this. The first one, I think, and what most people refer to as like romantic partners. It's validating to see, like, basically, because in my mind, when I'm pitting two people against each other and I'm involved with both of them, I'm like, they're like fighting over me. That's like great self-esteem juice. I'm like, wow, I'm worth both of these women like doing this. Like, to me, that's awesome. And a lot of times it's not even super conscious. A lot of times I might just be venting about one to the other, and they'll start doing that stuff. And then there's the other one, which is a little bit more calculated, which is, well, no, this one's actually less calculated. When it's like, let's say I have like a falling out with you, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to go to my friends and I'm going to start shit talking you, because in my mind, you are now evil. You wronged me. You betrayed me. I think that you deserve to be socially ostracized, but at the same time, I genuinely believe everything that I'm saying poorly, like the smear campaign sort of stuff.
Right.
Those are two things.
Really, right. And then when you try to pit like two women against one another, how would you do that? You would say to one of them privately, oh, Julie's really into me. And then you would say to the other one, oh, Susie's really into me. Is that, I mean, that's basic, but is it kind of like that? Or is it trying to, oh, Susie's amazing, but you say that to Julie. You'll go on and on about how great Susie is to Julie and how great Susie is to, I mean, is that what it is? You're trying to.
Usually I'll be like, okay, this is really bad. This is a toxic of me as hell. But in the past, what I would do is low key, if let's say I had like two girls who were like really into me, I would like talk to one of the girls and say, man, like let's say I'm talking to Susan. I'm like, Susan, Julie is like so into me and it's so annoying. And like they'll first see that as a threat, but also as me taking like their side. So they think that I'm like kind of unconditionally with them, but also have like this outside threat. Not proud of doing that in the past. Not proud of doing that, but yeah, it's definitely.
And it works, right? And it gets them very excited, and then they pay you more attention, possibly, or they get more into you.
Like I just love. I won't lie. I love jealousy. Jealousy is just like, it's just a great source of like self-esteem regulation. I can't let it's hard for me to let go. And like I make active efforts on for example, I'd even like. I'm a pretty flirtatious person, I would say. But when I'm with my girlfriend, I won't bring that down at all when it comes to other people either, because I love like the jealousy, when that threat. It's like, oh, that's validating. I love jealousy.
Right. So okay. So it's like
so toxic, but yeah.
Yeah, like if the waitress is coming to your table and you're on a date, you're gonna flirt with the waitress, hoping that your girlfriend will get a little weird about it, right? Okay.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Because it also confirms to me that you won't leave me too. There's also that factor in it. Of like, oh, well, if you're getting upset about this, that means that you're afraid of me leaving, therefore you won't leave me.
I'm finding out that a really compelling force for you is this fear of abandonment, and that's really interesting, because people think of narcissists always being the one to leave, but you're putting a different nuance on there, and
it's like, yeah, sure, we might leave first, but it's not because we wanted to. It's because that was the only way to like save our self-esteem, basically.
Right. Okay. All right. And then inner child, because so many people have asked me about the narcissist's inner child, and I saw you did some posts on that as well.
I always say, what inner child? It feels like I died as a kid, and all that's left is kind of like this shell of pieces of things that I've like kind of put together over the years. People talk about like inner child work and stuff like that. It just doesn't make sense to me. People are like, oh, love yourself. Oh, like, you know, like self-love. And I'm just kind of like, can you get that hippie bull crap out of here? It doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense to me.
It doesn't make any sense to you. Okay. So I want to end on the hope thing again, because so many people have mentioned that. And you said that there's no disorder in the DSM that you think is a hopeless case. You don't believe in hopeless cases.
No, I don't at all. I think there are people, well, that's the thing. As long as they want help, obviously, as long as they are seeking help, obviously anybody can change. I've never met a single person in my life who has tried to change for the better and has not been successful in it.
Exactly. So the willingness that comes from within, that's the most important thing, and anybody can move in a positive direction.
Yes, 100%.
Thank you so much, Jacob, for being here. Again, to anybody who's just meeting him for the first time, I just Google Nameless Narcissist and all of your
I pop up pretty quick, yeah.
You pop up. I mean, he is the leading voice. And I saw one of your fans said that on your YouTube, saying you are the face of this movement of healing within narcissistic circles and people who have been negatively affected by it. So I want to thank you again for that, because absolutely, when I was researching it, you're the top guy who comes up. You've got, what is it, 77,000 followers on TikTok?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
I think so. It was
not enough. It's not enough. Never enough.
It's not enough. It's not enough. He's gonna get boom. I mean, it's like, how long have you been doing social media?
I first started my YouTube was the first thing I started in, and I think I started that in February of last year.
Wow.
So I've been started for a year now.
Wow. There's just such a need for what you're putting out there. So yes, thank you. Everyone's giving you thank yous. Thank you very much, everybody. And thank you again, Jacob, for doing this. And there's no way to do it in a half hour. I've learned that. There's just no way.
And it was important lesson. There's no way to spend an entire day talking about this topic and talk about everything. Trust me.
Yeah. We could spend our whole lives. A lot of careers are based on this. It's a very important topic. And so thank you so much, Jacob, and goodbye, everybody.
Thanks again for having me. And goodbye, everybody.